Hi guys, welcome to the explanation for PTB Game 2. This is a game that's actually really not that easy at all, so if you had trouble with it, it's kind of diabolical to me that LSAT put it in the super prep, which is often the very first stuff you're encountering. But I guess you gotta get used to it sooner rather than later, so let's work with it. Okay, so it's a classic in-out game, meaning there's just two groups and you're either in one of them or the other. There's no third option. And you've got these 7 kinds of trees. Let me get those written out. We got firs, laurels, maples, oaks, pines, spruces, and yews. And then we know that the park contains at most 5, so there's definitely going to be 2 spots that are full out here on the outside. And you can write a little note to yourself that you're going to have max 5 over here. Beyond that, it's just a bunch of conditional rules, but some of them are a little tricky for reasons we'll see in a minute. We start out with a nice easy one. If maples are in the park, then yews are not. So we'll just do that and then hit its contrapositive. Y in, then maple out. I like to keep things separated when I'm working with a ton of conditional rules. Next one is another simple one that firs are in the park, then pines are not, so that's going to just be the same thing. Not, oh, sorry, we got to flip that around. Then not F. That's our contrapositive. Let me draw that a little clearer. Now things get a little bit trickier. We're told that if Y is not in the park, then we're going to have either laurels or oaks. So L or O. And that would be a nice simple rule, wouldn't be too hard to work with. But then we're told you can't have both. So L and O, I'm going to put this in parentheses and then I'm going to put an X through the whole thing, telling me I can't have both L and O. The really tricky thing is, how do we make the contrapositive of this rule? I'm going to break it out into 2. First, let's just make the contrapositive of this part right here. So L, not L, and not O, then Y. Now what about this part? What if I see both L and O? And I'm going to put this in parentheses to remind you that it matches up with this right here. Well, then I'm also going to see Y. If I have both of them, I got to have Y. And that's not the only hard rule we've got in this game. We got one more tricky one. This tells us if it's not the case that there's both laurels and oaks, so again, I'm going to do this parentheses thing. If we don't have laurels and oaks, then we need F and S to be in. Now what about the contrapositive of that? Not F or not S, then we're going to see the opposite. So we are going to see L and O in. And that turns out to be a really powerful contrapositive. Anytime F's not in or anytime S is not in, you're going to have to pop L and O right in right away. So say I see S out here, I know both O and L are going right into the inside. As the last little step, I'm looking to combine any chains where it's good to do so. So that M leads into that Y. That's bringing this down to here. Here, when we have F, we then know we don't have P, so I can stick that on there. And I could stick not M on both of these. So I basically totally accounted for this rule down here, but I'm just going to leave it, just because it's easy for reference. And there's far too many options here to start thinking about doing scenarios or anything, so I've got the rules down. I'm just going to attack the questions now. This is a tough first question. There's really not much you can do besides just take a look at these. And you can do a lot of this work just eliminating them in your head, but we'll take a look at it. First option is F and M in the park. So I'm going to pop F and M here for you, pop them in there, and see if that violates any rules. Well, now we're kicking out like everything else, right? So like S, L, O, all that stuff. But immediately when I kick S out, I notice that not F and not S, then L and O both have to be in. So this isn't going to work. And A is gone. Really get a handle on this rule down here because it comes into play an awful lot in this game. Next one, what about firs, laurels, and oaks over on the inside? Well, then everything else is getting kicked into this backside. And again, I see the same thing. The S is out, but that looks okay. here these are, right? So I'm looking at other rules. We'd have to have maples out as well and U's out. And then that's where I see the problem. L and O in, then U's need to be in as well. That's right down here. So I gotta get rid of B. What about firs, laurels, pines, and spruces? This one's easy right here. F and P, those two can't be on the inside together. So we gotta kick out C now. For D, we got firs, laurels, spruces, and U's. And then I'm gonna kick O and M into the outside. That's the only thing that's left. Y then not M, we've satisfied that rule. Then I'm gonna kick O, M, and P into this outside. And this looks pretty okay, right? I've kicked out M like I need to for that rule. F and P aren't together, satisfying this rule. And it takes a while to look through it all, but none of this other stuff gets triggered down here. We don't have not L and not O. They're split up. We don't have L and O in. Again, all these triggers just aren't happening. So none of these rules down here come into effect, and we're left with D as the right answer. Get confident at quickly seeing what rules are not in play. None of these down here get triggered. Okay, for 8, neither maples nor spruces are in the park. So first thing I'm looking at is S is out. That means L and O are both in. If L and O are in, that's a trigger. Then I know Y's in. And then I also know M's out, but I already knew that, so that's good. Then who's left? Just F and P, and it looks like there's a bunch of different arrangements for how those two would go. So I'm going to try and answer the question here. What could be true? Exactly 4 kinds of trees in the park? Well, how about I stick F in here and then kick P out? That looks like it's going to be good. But there's so many rules, I kind of want to eliminate the rest of these as well. So I'm holding on to A, but I'm taking a look at the rest of these. Exactly 5 kinds of trees in the park, we'd have to put both F and P in, but that doesn't work. Those two don't play nicely together. So I'm crossing out B. How about laurels not in the park? No, they have to be in. Same with oaks, that's D, and same with U's. So now I've definitely confirmed that A is right. 9's another toughie. Tough to see like really hard early questions like this. But some of these you can do in your head mentally. We'll just show them out though. Neither firs nor laurels are in the park. Like I'm seeing immediately that when firs are out, that means L's in. So that can't work. You'd have L both in and out. Cross A off. How about neither laurels, oaks, nor U's? Well, not L and not O, then Y's got to be in. So that's breaking this rule right here, and we got to cross B off. This next one is this same theme now. Spruces are out, so that's going to kick L and O in. Cross that one off. How about neither maples and U's out of the park? I don't see anything wrong with that immediately. How about Y and M out of the park? I'm not seeing anything wrong with that immediately, so I'm going to take a look at the last one and hope I can eliminate it, and that will be maybe the quicker way to do this. How about no oaks and no spruces? Again, that's breaking this rule here. Not S, then O's got to be in. So I've crossed E out, and I'm left with D as the right answer. Quicker than affirmatively checking D to just eliminate E there. Okay, for 10, we're told firs are not in the park. So I stick firs not in the park, and then I immediately remember at this point that L and O are going in. And then I look at what happens there. I should remember by now that that's a trigger, then Y's in as well. And I've done a bunch of work at this point. I'm going to hope it's going to answer the question. But I take a look through, and it doesn't help me out. So I go back to the drawing board, look for more inferences. Is this a trigger for anything? Yeah, that means M has to be on the outside over here. Y in, then M out. And then I look again, and bam, finally, I've got the answer. For 11, pines are in the park. What must be true in that situation? So pines go in, that immediately kicks firs out. That's right here. And then when firs out, then I immediately know that L and O are going in. That's bringing U in with it. And then when U's in, that's kicking maple out. So I just did a whole bunch of work there. I'm feeling really smooth with these inferences at this point in the game. And a quick scan shows me C, F, and M out. Yeah, I've already got that written down right here. 12 caps off a really hard game with another hard question. So each of the following could be an accurate partial list of the kinds of trees in the park. So I feel like I've got to look at all of these. And we got to find one that could not be a partial list. You're going to have the benefit of having your prior work, so you got to use that. We don't have it because of space constraints and showing you this stuff in a video, but your prior work can kick out B and C. So just trust me on that one that you'll have it written down. So I got to check the rest of this. And I'm kind of going to be looking for one that I might see a more immediate problem with first. So oaks and spruces, I don't see any problem with it. It looks like it's going to work, right? I just bring firs in and I'll be good. What about D? Firs, maples, and oaks. Again, I'm not seeing any reason why there would be an immediate problem with that. I just bring spruces in, then it's okay to have O in. So I'm hoping for something on this quick pass that I can find right away that raises alarms. Laurels, maples, and oaks. I'm not seeing that anywhere in my arrangements here at all. And it just feels wrong because these things match up a whole lot. So L and O, then that brings Y in. And then Y and M don't play nicely together. When either one is in, it's got to kick the other out. So that's not going to work, and that gives us E as a correct answer. I just saved a little time by looking for one that I could kind of quickly spot the problem with. Okay, that's the game. I'd say that's about max level of toughness for an in-out game. Working with all these rules that you kept in parentheses is pretty advanced skill. We have lessons in the grouping course that are going to take care of that for you. So check that out if this game felt rocky. Okay, thanks for being with us. See you on the next game.